Got you, people. So I was looking for some information because every time I look for something, all the information is always different. Like everybody, is talking about all this citizenship, naturalization, or born citizen, or citizen by birth here in the Americas or in Europe. But we're not going to talk about Europe. We're talking about the Americas now. That the only people that are entitled or are subject to citizenship are children of black slaves, right? But before I was reading that, it never said the ethnicity of these black slaves, right? Because it didn't mention which group of slaves. We got black Ethiopians, we got Africans, we got Hondurans, we got Colombians, we even got people that are blacks in Puerto Rico, right? In the islands, in the Caribbean islands, right? And Dominican Republic. So I was trying to figure out which black slaves are they talking about. But I found an article now that it says African slaves, the children that are born after slavery, they are now citizens of the state. Because back then, African slaves or black slaves, that's generalizing when you say black slaves. I mean anybody that was colored, that was a slave, becomes a citizen wherever you were born at. That's the whole theory of this. But government keeps on changing things around at will. That's the problem when it comes to government, that if they could change law at will, it's no good, because there's going to be somebody out there that's always going to be changing the laws to benefit them. But anyway, so I found something that I said people that are supposed to get the citizenship because they wasn't citizens for the years that they were slaves are from African black slaves. But in other articles it says black slaves only, so anybody that's color is entitled to the citizenship. But I'm going to read this article because everybody has different articles. I know everybody's going to argue and say things about it, but anyway, the citizenship and civil rights, right? Because that's why everything came in with the civil rights, right? It didn't came in under citizenship. Everybody when the civil rights came in, everybody that also was a citizen had extra rights and protection under the law as being born here in the United States. That's what the civil rights came in. Not only because you were black and you was here in the Americas, you had the same rights as blacks or even more at that time, even if you was not a slave. So all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction of are citizens of the United States and of the state within they reside. So if you're born in any state and where you reside, that's when you are a citizenship of that state, and you are covered under the law of that state. And the whole United States is a constitutional law of rights that you are being covered if you're born in any states in the Americas, right? So no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privilege or amenities of a citizens of the United States. That means if you're born here, they cannot deny you or deprive you of protection under the law of the Constitution and the civil rights, right? Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property. So they cannot take nothing away from you. They cannot take away your life without due process, your liberties without due process, or any property you have in possession or that you own without due process, according to the constitutional laws and rights of a citizen. Once you're born in any state, you are a citizen of that jurisdiction where you reside at. And if you move to another one, you have protection under that same state. No matter where you go, your constitutional rights will follow you. So without due process of law, so they cannot do nothing without due process of law, or deny any person within the jurisdiction of the equal protection of the law. So that means you protected under the equal protection of the law, on the constitutional law, right? It's two laws. You got government law, agency law, and the constitutional law is the highest, right? You might not win a state or city law, but when you take it up to a constitutional law, you have a better chance of winning if you fight it all the way up. That's why it's advised that you seek counsel or know your rights or never play guilty. You know, fight your case to the end. If you know that you're right and you're entitled, not that you're entitled, it's a right, a born-given right. If you're born here in the Americas, that you're protected under the full extent of the law, right? They cannot deny you that. That's another thing. And now Section 1 of the 14th Amendment formally defines the United States citizenship and protects various civil rights from being abridged or denied. That you cannot put anything in between, so they could deny you these laws, any state law or state action, right? The Supreme Court held that the 14th Amendment historical context of countering the discriminatory black code of southern states must be used in this interpretation, primarily written by representative. I'm not going to read all that. So then they have citizen clause that prevent people from doing certain things. And let me see, because I don't want to get into all this, because I know people read it before. So, right? That's compared to Europe. State citizenship clause as an extension of the 14th Amendment. Allegations, principles, I don't know. Congress debate over the citizenship clause shows explicit rejection of Senator Edgar. We don't want to read all that. Affirmative, forget all that. What we're looking for, important things that you are entitled to, right? So, right, which indicate all Americans or women. Okay. Privilege of amenities and clause. The privilege and amenity clause were written to provide congressional powers to enforcement to the similar privileges and amenities clause of the Article 4 of the Constitution. Wow, dude, you're gonna have to read all this stuff in your own, dude, right? The 14th Amendment is similar. Yo, man, I thought I had some good protection clause. So, protection clause, written civil rights, prevent enforcement, the Southern States codes. Right? It's just saying that the Constitution was written for all states, for the whole land, that other Southern countries could not break these laws and continue to have slavery, you know, under them and control. Because at that time, now they were all free, they became citizens and they had the same privileges as white folks. But I'm looking for some more stuff, man. Alright? So the 14th Amendment in the United States Constitution ratified in 1868 addressed citizenship rights and equal protection of the law. It states that all persons born or naturalized in the United States are citizens. So it says it clear. Even if you was born in the States, you become a citizen automatically in the jurisdiction of, that means in the state, in the Americas, and prohibits states from denying any person the equal protection under the law. The amendments has been pivotal to numerous landmarks Supreme Court clause, including Brown's and Board of Education. I think people read that already. We don't need that. Well, we're just taking parts, and I just was trying to read things that are important that I want to know. Man, I wanted to get the one where it says African slaves. But everything changed. Here's again, man. Section 1, Civil Rights and Article 2. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and are subject to the jurisdiction of are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. And you know, subject means you pledge loyalty to the government and the laws that govern the land. That's what it is. You have subject. That a subject means you're a slave to the kingdom of queen, right? The king of queen. But that's what I was saying. No kings, because citizens are subject to the government. Whether you believe it or not, everybody's a slave here to the government here in America, because you can't do nothing without their permission. Just try to do something without their permission. You need something to do something here in the Americas now, you know? You just can't go and just do something because you want to. You always got to get permission or some kind of document giving you permission to do something. So you're not really free as you think you are. Citizen clause. I don't want to read that. Man, I had that. What it said, African. But anyway, people, that's what I was just looking for an article that to show me, because every time I read the article, it had said that it was only the birthright citizenship was only for black slaves. And you know, blacks could mean anything, because that you generalizing, like I said. But then I found the article was for African Americans, right? But you know, and the Africans, when they came here, there was more black people. That was not only Africans. There were people from all over. I guess that's when they had taken them to all parts of Europe and all over the Caribbean, right? So that's why people learn how to speak certain different languages. They spoke British, Irish, the blacks that spoke Spanish, so they spoke English, right? I haven't seen any black person speak Cherokee or Aztec yet, but there's a few people out there that learned the language, right? Because I heard about a black American that's in China. He speaks fluent Chinese, and another black, no, this was a European person, of course. He's gonna try to move in. He speaks fluent Tagalog, right? Philippine Tagalog, and you know, he found out that the Filipino, they call them the ponies, they try to like scam him or something, but he knew Tagalog, and he was telling the other guy that he knows what they're talking about. And the other guy told him, they were surprised that he knew fluently Tagalog. So he spoke to the other person that he was selling him, and they were shocked. But anyway, nothing ever happened, and the European guy just left, and that was it. But they were shocked that a European person had learned their language. That's why I say you gotta be careful when you teach your language and your code to a foreign entity that doesn't like you. The European countries will never like color folks. That's why I don't understand why a lot of blacks are hating on the Hispanics and other Caribbeans and Trinidad Haitians, because now they're privileged here, right? Because after their ancestors went through the slavery and got them here, because it wasn't for the African people that kept living so they could have a new generation of blacks. Now they will call black American or Afro Americans, and you know, they got lighter. And you know, I spoke to about before about the different colors and races and categories that they got. Like if you white and black, you're mulatto. If you're Indian and European, you're Creole. And if you both in color, you call them mosquito, right? So that's the thing about it. So now most people that are colored, they think they're light skinned, they think they're better than their counterparts. Because you know, now they got a little light skin, their hair got a little straighter, you know, their nose got a little narrower, their bubble gum lips got a little smaller. You know, they don't identify themselves as they were when they first came in to this European country or the northern country, which is America now. And everybody in America, man, is an immigrant. I don't care what you say. What people should be saying to these ISIS and anybody that stops some for their citizenship, they should ask the person too, what about your documents? How you came in this country, right? Because they can't tell you that, because they will never tell you how they came here, because they know they came from the Mayflower, right out of a wooden ship, unannounced, and stopped on a country. Then they never knew it existed, but they took it over. And that's how they became in power. Not only that, the native people also helping to empower themselves, and they took over. They learned their language, they learned their skills, and all that. They took their country away from them. That's why America will never relinquish their powers, right? Because they don't want them in Europe. They can't survive in Europe. They don't know the culture, the language. They made their culture here in the Americas. Just like everybody that comes to America, they learn a new culture here, and they know how to interact with each other. Even people here in America, they interact with each other, but most likely they don't like each other. And the thing is that everything is a racial thing. Just because you don't like a person, you want to call it as a racial thing. No. I don't want to have interaction with you. That don't mean I'm racial. It's not my preference. It's not my liking to be with a particular person or a group that I can't associate with. That doesn't mean I'm racist. I just want to be separated. That's why I don't understand all these problems. And color people will never get together as we keep on fighting each other and bashing each other, instead of protecting each other and buying from each other. And I'm trying to understand each other. We don't have to always be together, but we got to know that we all struggling as a whole. The European countries do not like color folks. I don't care how light skinned you are, how light, how yellow. You're never going to fit in to a European ethnic group of nationality. You always going to be outside. I don't care how many times you marry into a European family and try to fit in. You're never going to fit in. You're always going to be looked as an outsider, and they're going to consider you a traitor to your own kind. They're never going to trust you. It's like that. You cannot betray your race or your people to go to another and then bash your own people, try to fit in another race of people that never liked you from the beginning, and they never will. That's the struggle we have now in the Americas. Now either they're trying to make all this, whitewash everything again, and trying to clear out every color folks. Right now in Europe, there's a disaster. They want their country back, but who brought all those people in there? Their own government, their own forefathers brought these people into to make them indentured slaves or slaves for eternity. And to this day, even if you work for them, they consider you a slave worker, right? They don't consider you as a earner, a working person. No, you beneath them, and you're always gonna be slaving for them, doing things for them, calling them boss man. I'll figure out why they call you boss man, right? I think they call the Europeans or the white folks boss man. Why you call them boss? Why can't you call them by the name? Like, I call people that I know by their name. I never call them boss man. Like, I own something. I gotta respect them. He's the boss. Is the boss. But I'm not always gonna call him boss man or boss. Can I do this? Can I get my lunch? No. I'm gonna call him by his name. And if I know I got a lunch break, I got my lunch break. I don't have to ask boss man, can I get my break now? Come on, man. Those days are over with. But people gotta get along. We gotta stop. If we not with the color folks, who we with? The Europeans are never gonna accept us or what we are. Even if we poor, we live in poor, they still won't like us. They figure out, how could these poor people be poor and still be happy? How could they be rejoicing with their families, right? Because we're about family, music, and our culture, and they're about having access to things, gold, money, silver. They're into materialistic things. We two separate entities of nations that we think different. They think and acquiring items, and I think it's acquiring a family, but they want to acquire power and domination of greed. And our people are not like that. We are family oriented and culturally, we're not into enslaving other races or conquering another race. Everybody in the Caribbeans and other parts of color world, we live happily with what we have. We never wanted, jets, limos, Mercedes, nothing like that. We live with what we had, and we made things happen with what we had. We wasn't worried about what's out there in Europe. We didn't care about them people, but they were caring because they was killing themselves. I always say that these people were killing themselves, robbing from each other, from their neighbors, burning their own houses, envy the other one because he had a bigger family or have more property than him, and they would just steal it from each other. They would enslave other neighbors, children of other people of other places in the village. That's how it was. But the indigenous people lived free throughout the plains, through the land. They would move, and somebody would take the land and continue living and continue producing, harvesting. We wasn't out there killing other tribes just to live, So I don't understand why. I don't understand the minds of the European people. Why, if they already have conquered enough, why they want to still control the world? People, anyway, Europeans got to choose with that, man, because sooner or later, your cars are going to run out. And with that, I'll let you go and you think about that.